force. An explosive device would detonate, sending out an aerosol of either liquid or solid material of the proper particle size. A second explosion would then touch off the aerosol mix with devastating results. While the flame front, in the case of the Branch Davidian complex, did not generate the overpressure of the fuel-air explosive device, the results were similar. The structure burned rapidly to the ground. The CS agent was burned in the process. Cyanide radicals were generated as CS burn, combining with normal fluids in the lungs of the people to generate hydrogen cyanide gas. Sufficient water was also generated by the combustion of ethanol and acetone dilutants to form water, as well as to generate hydrogen cyanide gas. It was probably a good decision on the part of federal agents on the scene not to attempt to put the fire out using water. And as you recall, I stated that they held the fire trucks back. The resulting steam generated by water coming into contact with the hot structure would further generate hydrogen cyanide, and the resulting cloud of cyanide gas and steam could have been carried by prevailing winds over populated areas. This could have killed people not even involved in the incident, or at least made them extremely sick. I have come into possession of a material from the federal training manuals governing the use of CS. CS is said to be non-lethal unless dispensed into a confined space. The hydrogen cyanide from 40 to 50 cartridges, each containing 12.5 G of CS, would generate sufficient hydrogen cyanide gas just and been fired into the prescribed manner to kill people in a confined space. The publication goes on to say that the use of 40 to 50 cartridges is clearly outside the range of practical possibilities. They never considered federal agents would use 55-gallon drums of CS, dilute it, then fill a structure with the resulting aerosol. If 500 grams of CS, less than 1 quart of the agent, generates sufficient hydrogen cyanide from just being fired normally to kill people in confined spaces, think about the results of filling a structure with CS from 55-gallon drums, then igniting it. And he states a marvelous way to kill people if that is your intent. And that's what Dr. George Ulick had to say in his report to Congress. And again, he was the head of the Hercules program, and if you want to come back, he was the head of the Hercules program, the chief kinetic chemist of that program, and seen it from start to finish, work for the government. So a man with many, many credentials right here, and this is what he said happened at the complex at Waco, Texas. So what we found in reality and in general terms of talking, and again, we have the autopsies of those individuals here, by the way, David Koresh, all of them, everybody involved there, we have. And what we found in the bloodstream and what we found in the lungs was at times lethal doses of CS gas, or rather hydrogen cyanide, and incapacitating doses, which means incapacitated, these people were unable to get out of that building, and of course the lethal doses, and some of these people with bullet holes in them. And we have to ask at that point, and I do that somewhere along in the overview that we sent to Congress, we asked which come first, you know, the CS, the cyanide, or the bullet. And certainly this would be maybe an overkill, so to speak. What we saw in some of our video were agents with what is called Scott air packs. A breathing mask, firemen use them to go in a building. Well, we saw them with these things. Now, and at times, and this sounds silly, I don't even like to make the statement, but here you have a man with 231 parts per million of cyanide in his body. He's plainly dead. Nobody can live with that. You can't live with over about 35 parts per million of cyanide in your body. And then you're going to be deathly ill. But he has a bullet hole in the head. And that bullet hole being a 9mm bullet hole. And that's where we get back to Perawani wanting to exhume these bodies. Now, what we found when we went into the autopsy report, and I can show that to you, again, reported to Congress at the time, we found 2 sets, not 1 set, of autopsies. We found a set prepared by the FBI that was given to Congress, And then we found the set that was not a matter of record. As a matter of fact, we sealed and we had to sue to get these also. But we found these records were totally inconsistent with those that the FBI had supplied Congress at that time. And again, this all happened in 1994. And if I look at comparing, and we made a comparison of these particular FBI, these are the autopsies that the FBI presented here. They show no cyanide in the body. And we go back to this particular one, which they call MacDo 44. And we go back to the state of Texas autopsy, MacDo 44. And what we find, here is their document, the same document. This was in Texas files, and again, I'm sure the Texas Rangers have these same files. We find ethanol at .09 in the blood. In the urine, we find ethanol at .05. And in the blood, we find carbon monoxide at 35. Now that, again, that runs right along the same thing of MacDo with the FBI. They show the same thing. Then we come down to blood. Cyanide level, 118 parts per million. This was a dead man. This man was dead from cyanide poisoning. But he also had a bullet in his head of 9mm caliber. You have to draw your own conclusions on that. I mean, ATF, FBI were using 9mm. Now, we're told that the Davidian, Branch Davidian people, and I don't think anybody's ever denied this, were using long guns. We all know what long guns are. They're rifles. They're not 9mm. They're 30-30s or whatever they are. And but here we see a 9mm. And there's many 9mm in all these bodies, in a lot of these bodies. Not all of them. Some of them have different caliber shells. But I can even imagine people watching their children burn and maybe shoot them themselves rather than have them go through such a horrifying death. Now, our phone number here, by the way, is 767-8827. If you have comments and would like to call in on the program, because we could go all night on reading paperwork here and all this type of thing. But if you do want to call in and have some comments, certainly give us a call, and we're glad to talk to you. 767-8827 is the number to call. And once again, want to remind you that we gave all of this information to the United States Congress, the Senate Judiciary Committee, or whatever it was, in 1995, and we compiled this in 94. We were the only television team that went in and did, at that time, an investigative report on the Branch Davidians and the Waco Institute, or Waco incident. And once again, the number is 767-8827. If you have comments, well, we certainly want to listen to them. And we'll see if we can get this gentleman here, or ma'am. Okay, you're online live.
Well, I had a question about you said that KPOC was the only station to bring about this to Congress? Is that...
That's right. In 1994, we were the only one that took an open eye look at it. And we went to Waco, Texas, spent some, I think almost 14 months, and it was 95, but it was about 8 months rather. I said 14, but it was 8. It was 14 months by the time we got it to Congress, after the show aired. And no other station had taken any investigative look at any of those incidents down there at that time. We went down there, quite frankly, to show that a good job was done by the FBI at that time, and we intended to compile a 30-minute program that we were going to use here on this station and show how great the job was that they had done. But consequently, as they got down there and started investigating, there was inconsistencies in what we were getting from an agent by the name of John Russell in Washington, D.C. with the Federal Bureau of... No, he was with the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And then another individual by the name of Scroggins with the FBI was faxing material and data to us, and trying to confirm it down there was impossible. We were getting different statements from law enforcement down there.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing I'm curious about is, have y'all had any kind of, like, feedback on, like, now from any, like, the FBI, the ATF, anything?
We've not heard anything from the ATF or FBI. Now, I have been subpoenaed in certain instances about this tape and given sworn testimony